This, my friends, is the EDIFIER 330NB active noise cancelling Apple AirPods Pro lookalike, while this is the TWS1 Pro, also from EDIFIER. And if you Google any of these two devices, you'll notice that they occupy separate spaces because of their completely different target audience, as well as technical abilities. But I wanted to talk about both anyway, so you can have a better idea of the latest and best from the EDIFIER catalog. And TLDR, the 330 and the 1 Pro sound and perform pretty darn good, are dirt cheap, and are much better than you think. Now, join me as we check these things out together. And by the way, subscribe and like if you find my face likable and subscribable. Let's do it after these messages that way. Alright guys, on the left here we have the EDIFIER 330NB and next to it the 1 Pro. And by the way, I'm gonna rapid fire through the specs since we obviously have a buttload to cover here. So the 330NB runs $80 while the 1 Pro is $60, but I did notice on Amazon recently that they're on a hefty discount right now. I'll link it down below and hopefully it's still available. Anyways, the 330 sports noise cancellation and pass-through mode, IP54 dust water resistance, 3 mics per side, Bluetooth 5.0 supporting AAC and SBC only, low latency mode for gaming or movie watching if you like, USB-C charging, and mono mode is on board as well. Now, EDIFIER quotes 4 hours of battery life with ANC on, but I was able to eke out about 4.2 hours with ANC on and volume set at 65%. The 1 Pro, on the other hand, does without active noise cancellation, rocks IP65 water and dust resistance, 2 mics per side, as well as the newer Bluetooth 5.2 protocol with SBC, aptX, and aptX adaptive support. Strangely, AAC is nowhere to be found here. There's also USB-C charging as well as mono mode. Now, in terms of battery life, without ANC to sap a lot of things here, battery life is rated at 12 hours according to EDIFIER, although my testing wrung out about 10.8 hours at 65% volume, which is still pretty darn amazing. I'll tell you what, the case for the 330 fits really well in your palm as well as your pocket thanks to the slim profile as well as the slippery material. But on the flip side, this same shiny plastics will be scratched up pretty easily and be hideous to look at in no time flat. Already, you can see some scratches at the front here just from me throwing this in my pocket with nothing else in it. So that's a crying shame. Now, the 1 Pro on the other hand does matte plastics instead, which really helps your grip. It's equally easy to hold and carry around thanks to their relatively thin profile. Now, USB-C charging port, at least for the 1 Pro, is on the back with the 330s at the bottom, and both of them share the same kind of one single LED to show battery status. Now, on the 1 Pro, I don't think you can see the LED, and neither can I. When it's off, you can't see it at all, and when it's on, it's really, really dim. I'm not sure if this is intentional or not. Now, there's also one single button for the 330NB at the back that when you press it, it turns on the battery status, whereas there's none for the 1 Pro. The lids on both of these kinda sorta lock in place, which is better than nothing I guess, but will flop closed the moment you apply any kind of light force. Now, the inside of the 330 has more shiny plastics with some Constellation matte plastics on the periphery here. The earbuds dock vertically, by the way, with the stem stowing into the slot right here. Now, a word about this slot right here. It takes me multiple tries and a lot of precision to get this right. I have to look at this actively all the time to put this back in. You would think like after using a earbud after a while, you could slot things back in just without looking like second nature, but this requires me to look at it every time. It would have been so much easier if they had carved a divot right here where the end of the top of the slot right here is, where my fingertip is. If there was a divot, the stem could have just slid in at any angle and it would have been easy to slide the thing back into its spot. The cavity itself is easy enough to clean, but you have to be sure to pay special attention to the charging pins located right here at the bottom of the slot right there. I'm not sure if you can see that. It's right all the way at the bottom, so gunk and grime is going to collect there if you don't clean it right, and you're going to have problems charging this thing. The 1 Pro on the other hand is much easier to clean in that aspect. It's just an open space with the charging pins closer to the top. These 330s are honestly quite compact for a stem design earbud with active noise cancellation built in, let's not forget. But I also suspect that's down to a smaller battery cell overall. But anyways, each of these earbuds weigh 5 grams, not bad at all. The 1 Pro comes in at 4. And in terms of build quality for both, I'll tell you what, EDIFIER, nicely done. Manufacturing lines are nice and tight and clean and solid. And they definitely don't feel budget, even though they're kind of price budget. Now, there are 3 mics on board for the 330s, one right by the charging contacts at the bottom of the stem, one at the top here, and one right behind the ear tip. There's a venting port at the top here that helps keep your ear canal cool, as well as to port bass out and sound out as needed from the acoustic chamber. Now, doing all the sonic work is an 8mm driver channeling sound through an oval port. Yes, it's an oval port covered by an oval mesh grill. Now, just so you know, guys, installing oval ear tips, oval ear openings, yeah, it's really hard to pronounce too. It's not the easiest thing to do either, because you have to make sure that the shape matches up. And yeah, it takes a lot of time and effort and finagling to get it right. But I'll tell you what, once it's on, this thing is anatomically correct, because guess what? Oval ear tips match your oval ear canals. The One Pro, on the other hand, is your Buds style earbud, and it's easier to grip right off the bat with your sweaty post-workout fingers thanks to its shape as well as the grippy materials. Now, the documentation says there's 2 mics on board, but I'm having a hard time finding it. This is the LED status light, but maybe one of the mics is shared with the same space, and maybe the other mic is right behind this the mesh material here, where it acts as a feedback mic or something. Charging connector is right there. But anyways, the One Pro improves on the older TWS1 with a 6mm titanium driver doing all the grunt work here. The ear tips are round, by the way, as opposed to the oval on the 330. And oddly, as a hardened center core kind of ear tip, this takes a whole lot longer than usual than other models I've tested. Really long time, as you can see here. I'm having a hard time to put this on. And it might have something to do with how the lip is designed on the opening here. This one sits further down the shaft than some of the quicker ones, which have a lip around the tip. In terms of controls, both utilize touch. The One Pro makes do with single and double taps as well as hold, while the 330 goes with double and triple taps as well as hold. But another thing you can do with the 330NB is use it with the EDIFIER Connect app. At first glance, the app looks kind of chintzy, which actually kind of is, but is functionally not bad at all. And you can switch between active noise cancellation and ambient mode, which is standard stuff, but you can also adjust the ambient level with this slider. And you can see this is kind of like an afterthought. It's way at the top here, kind of incongruent. Now, the settings also on the top right here is where you can customize your touch controls. And something I haven't seen before is adjust the tap sensitivity. And one quirk about this is, look at this, the max sensitivity is 31. Wait, why? And one thing you won't find also in this app is a centralized EQ to play with, so something to bear in mind. And oh yes, we can't end this segment without doing the shake test. And I'm going to start with the One Pro first. I have to hold the lid open. Don't forget they do close very easily. And yeah, that's a fail right off the bat. Let's do the 330 next. Hold the lid open. They fare a little bit better. Look at that. It's nice and strong and it stays put. So pass on the 330 and not so much on the One Pro.
Alright guys, we're outside doing the Bluetooth range test, and I have some stressed out by 21 pilots.
Now we're stressed out.
I'm gonna put the phone at the end of my deck, and we're gonna keep walking around the back of my house towards the side until these things bug out with each other. So the 330s have Bluetooth 5.0, so it should last around 30 to 33 feet as usual. But there's the phone at the end of my deck, and where I'm standing is around 25 feet. How you guys doing? We're kind of close to where most earbuds start cutting out, which should be spec, and there you go, it happened right there on cue. So the 330s are performing as expected. I'm going to keep walking though until we get a full cutout, full disconnect, and see how far these things go. So I'm going to cut to it until we get the tone, because it seems like it might be a walk. Oh, actually there you go. There's the tone. Not bad. It's around, I would say, close to 50 feet, 48, 40, 47, 48 feet. And you can see the fit of these in your ears, or my ears. They're your usual stem style design. I think some people may like it, some people may not, but I think they make me look like an AT-AT walker with the cannons on the side and such. So anyways, let's cut to the TWS1 Pro and see how those things do. Alright, I have the One Pros on, and we're really close to where other earbuds start getting connection issues. And these things operate just on cue, exactly right there on the 31-foot mark. So yes, perfectly done. By the way, these things have Bluetooth 5.2. That doesn't mean it affects the distance. It's just about the bit rate as well as battery consumption. I'm going to keep walking again until we get a full disconnect tone. And by the way, I just also noticed these things are very picky on which side you put on first into your ear. So if you're left-handed like myself, if I take out the left earbud and then take out the right, it will only connect to the right side. So it feels like the right side or the left side is a slave to the right. Maybe EDIFIER can correct me on this too, but I noticed if I take out the right first and then the left, it connects fine, both of them. So anyways, I just got a disconnect tone back there at 50 feet. That's why I'm turning around, but I was busy talking, yammering on. And I'm back in range now, and I heard a tone, but it's not continuing. So, you know, just tap it and it starts playing again. Anyways, let's move on to the mic test for both of these things. Alright, now I have the One Pro on, and again, we're right by the roadside standing here to get some sound samples. And you can hear for yourselves that these things don't do too hot with Bluetooth phone calls. I'm not a fan of these, even in a quiet environment. There's lack of bass. I sound like a preteen or something. And then when traffic passes by, it just sounds like, I don't know, these things were thrown in hot lava or something and just melting, and that's all you heard. Crackle, crackle, pop, pop, and such. So anyways, yeah, back to the drawing board on these. These could do a lot better than the 330s, I think. So maybe in the next version. So Edifier, do something about it. Okay, I have the 330s on right now, and I'm taking it down the road to get some sound samples to see how these things do with noise suppression. So as traffic passes through, you can hear for yourselves that these don't sound very good in terms of noise suppression. The algorithm just gives up the ghost. Here comes a quick truck. You can hear that. Yeah, I'm gonna keep talking, and yeah, it's just buzzing like crazy. Sounds like I'm underwater or something, right? But I do say though, in a quiet environment, these things, the mics, I'm very impressed. I'm gonna try to hope that there would be a quiet time here. But you can hear for yourselves that these things sound really good, but intonation is preserved and everything. But yeah, tire noises, engine noises, this is when it's not gonna do that hot. I do have to say though, when you do get a phone call, if you have active noise cancellation on, pass-through mode turns on. So that's a great feature. I personally like it because it gives you better situational awareness when you're talking on the phone. So there you go. Here comes another bus. I'm gonna just keep talking again because you love hearing my voice, right? How's that sound? Yeah, so anyways, let's get back to the studio.
Alright, let's begin with the 330NB, and one of my favorite things about this is the sound profile. So if you're using this to listen to genres like pop or classical, I would say that this is toit like a tiger.
Yes, you are toit like a tiger.
Clarity is a strong suit, though I find that's a little bit bright and sharp with emphasis on the highest part of the frequency range. So some of you may or may not like that, but I thought I'd mention it anyway. And this is also not an all-out bass thumper if that's your kind of thing, but I still say that the low end is strong and authoritative. Now, separation is distinct until you hit, like, say, the last 20% of the volume, and that's when things get muddled and honestly rather exhausting to listen to. Imaging is very centered, so this is ideal for vocals and instruments that are placed near or in the middle, but also because of that, these things have a hard time accurately displaying a wider soundstage, something like Sennheisers and Sonys are particularly good at. So for example, if I use Radiohead's Nude as a test song, the organ and guitar and the echoing vocals off to the left and right of Tom York seem a little bit too centered and down to the bottom a little bit too. These things are light and comfortable, and I really enjoy wearing these. Even for hours, it's not a problem. And sure, when it comes to the topic of fit and comfort, your mileage may vary, but I'll say this. These ears, guys, has been penetrated by enough ear tips to recognize when something feels right. Oh yes. Now, while the overall sound quality is not comparable to the 330, the 1 Pro more than holds its own in terms of clarity and separation. It's pretty darn impressive. Everything I said about the clarity and separation of the 330 applies here too. But what is not a strong suit is bass. It's clear, but it doesn't have the oomph of the 330. And also similar to the 330, its bright and sharp tuning may not be a cup of tea because it can be pretty exhausting pretty quickly. This might not seem like a big deal to you, but it's really nice to see Bluetooth 5.2 at this price. And this decision by Edifier really pays dividend when it comes to battery life. As we saw earlier, this has a stellar 11 hours. That's amazing. And it also future-proofs this. So when the LC3 audio codec is released further down the line that promises higher transfer rate and longer battery life, guess what? This is compatible. Alright, it is time for the negatives. And so for the 330NB, my first dislike is Edifier. It is the year 2021, obviously. And to have a battery life of barely over 4 hours with ANC on it in this time and age, I think it is time to upgrade to a new battery pack and also introduce something like Bluetooth LE or something better. I know you can do this, so with the next version, we'd like to see improvements in this area. So I've said this before many times and I'll say it again. And no, I'm not talking about touch controls here, that's another topic altogether, but piano black plastics have to die, guys. Handling the earbuds, for example, is one of the worst. It's hopeless when your hands are damp, and the case, this is like your proverbial slippery bar of soap kind of scenario, and see, that happened in real time. I didn't fake that. I was holding it and it just jumped right out of my hands on its own will. Alright, now it's time to talk smack about the One Pro. I have a couple of them, but to be honest, I have to nitpick here because at the end of the day, this thing, for the price, it performs amazing, it sounds good, long battery life. You know how it is, you know how it works. But the first problem that I could have is, as you heard earlier, the phone call quality is not the best, especially when you compare it with the 330. And I don't think the hardware is the problem here because don't forget we have the QCC3040 chip, Bluetooth 5.2, CVC 8.0 processing here. So my guess is it's the tuning that needs work here, or maybe they just need to turn it on altogether. The other thing too, this needs more fun color options because right now there's dark gray and this weird ivory version that looks more like off-white. Edifier, give us something like tangerine orange or spring green or pea yellow or coagulated blood red or something like that. Well, here we are at my final thoughts. And this is a blanket statement, by the way. I think that Edifier just keeps getting better and better with each generation. For example, these two, they punch well above their weight in depth and price. For example, the 330NB has active noise cancellation, more mics, venting ports and such. And then we got the One Pro that is more simple, but it has the newest Bluetooth 5.2, superior battery life, higher water resistance rating, and both of these are super affordable. And at the end of the day then, what we have here are two very competent performers occupying two parts of the Edifier catalog as we kind of established earlier. So with all that said, I'm gonna give the 330NB and the TWS1 Pro a GearUP score of 8.3 and 8.4 respectively. And these are definitely worth checking out, guys. I'll link them down below. And you know what? At this price, you could probably afford to get both. Alright guys, here's the thing. If you've been watching this and haven't yet clicked the subscribe button down below, do it right now. Yes, that's super important. Show your support. And also turn on the bell notification icon while you're at it and you'll get notified whenever I drop new videos. So thank you in advance, guys. I'm also on Patreon. The link is down below in the description where you can buy me a cup of tea or coffee or milk, my other favorite beverage, and get your name shouted out right here and be a minor celebrity. Also remember to thumbs up if you like this video and comment nicely down below. And thumbs down. Thumbs down for those of you who wonder why the sport of speed walking is even a sport. I think speed walking is highly underappreciated, and you probably didn't know this, but speed walking is not just good for health, it's actually a very practical sport, unlike, you know, table tennis or synchronized anything. For example, if you're in class or you're in a board meeting and you realize that the curry you had for lunch earlier is not sitting well and is wanting out ASAP, and the only way you can discreetly make a beeline to the bathroom, guess what? Speed walking, baby. Or if you're out camping and in the middle of the night you feel like you need to pee like a racehorse, and so instead of waking up your other campers with their heavy running and such and your shoes loose everywhere, what do? Speed walk your way to the outhouse, man. There you go, yes. Anyways, that's all I got. Take care of yourselves, guys. Have a great weekend. I love y'all so much. Thank you for watching this. And remember to do something kind of loving for somebody in this world. God bless. And I'll see you on the next one.